It can be super frustrating when you shoot for a crumb like this and you end up with a crumb like this. Now there's a few things that can cause this issue, but today we're going to focus on the one that's often overlooked. Now this is a nasty little trap. I'm going to show you how to spot it and how to avoid it in the future. You're going to play detective. I'm going to show you the formula, the timeline, and the storyboard, and you're going to try and tell me what the issue is before I reveal it. Now this is a bake from one of our Sourdough Unchained members that I've actually replicated at home so I can share it with you, but it's in the top 3 problems that our new members have struggled with before joining us. Now there has got to be nothing more frustrating than opening up your oven, being presented with a loaf like that that's full of volume, sprung beautifully, it's got a cracking ear. You pull it out the oven, slide it onto your cooling rack, and then you've got 2 to 3 hours while it cools to contemplate just how great your crumb's going to be. Then you slice it open it up, and you're presented with a bunch of holes. It's an absolute nightmare, and we have all struggled with it. So let's have a look at the formula and see if we've got any clues. So now's your chance to play detective. We've got 1,000-gram dough here. Now our flour blend is made up of 90% Culprit Manitoba. That's a nice strong white flour at about 14% protein. That's coupled with 10% whole wheat flour. We're using 74% hydration and 2% salt. Now that's going to create a really nice dough that's going to have the capabilities of springing in the oven, but also hanging onto that volume. So let's have a quick look at our starter and our leaven. Now the starter is made with 100% Culprit and 100% water. Pretty straightforward. Leaven again, 100% strong white bread flour, 100% water, and we're using 10% starter to inoculate that leaven. That means that this leaven is probably going to be left for a long time to ferment. For all you beginners, that's a 1 to 10 to 10 ratio. Now let's have a look at the dough formula. The one thing we want to check here is the leaven inoculation, and it's at 20%. Pretty standard. So that's our formula. Now, can anybody spot any potential issues there that may have led to those holes in the crumb? Right, let's see if our tracker can give us any more clues. And I should say my kitchen was super toasty this day at 32 degrees Celsius, but I used my proving chamber for the entire fermentation chain. That was set to 25 degrees Celsius or 77 degrees Fahrenheit. So here's our timeline. Now the leaven was mixed the night before at 10 o'clock, right? Sat out all night until 7 o'clock, 25 degrees Celsius, to ferment. We can see here, leaven fermented overnight for 9 hours. Remember when we looked at the formula? I said that leaven has only been inoculated with 10% of starter, a 1 to 10 to 10 ratio. Why? Brilliant for scheduling. Leave it out all night and then you're ready to mix the dough the next morning. So the dough is mixed at 7 o'clock, okay? Bench mix 7:30, lamination 8:30, lamination 9:30, pre-shape 12:50, shape at 1:15. Now I'm interested in these 2 times here. When the dough was mixed and the leaven was added to the point of shape, that's our bulk fermentation time. We can see here 6 hours and 15 minutes. This is a key metric, okay? Now, after shaping and popping in the basket, the dough only sits out for 15 minutes before being cold retarded. And this is actually a comment the member made in their tracker. Reduced ambient proof time to 15 minutes as the dough was super active and had filled the basket. Now, this should be a clue for you. The fermentation temperature, 25 degrees Celsius, 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Bulk fermentation time, 6 hours and 15 minutes. And yet, when the dough was shaped and went into the basket, it was super active and they had to pretty much skip the ambient proof. So it went straight in for cold retard, okay? Now, the dough cold retards until 9 o'clock the next morning before being baked for 50 minutes. The dough is then allowed to cool for 2 hours. Now, the baking setup was an electric oven. I used my baking stone and cloth. You will have seen that in the videos. Oven temperature was 220 degrees Celsius and the dough was covered for the first 20 minutes. I didn't use any steam at all. So, have you cracked it? Because if you haven't, you're going to get all the clues you need in this photo gallery. So, top left, leaven, right after mixing. Remember, that was 10 o'clock at night. The next picture is the leaven at peak fermentation. That's 7 o'clock the next morning. Lots of activity, lots of wild yeast. Perfect. There's no problem with this leaven at all, I promise you. Now the next picture is pretty much the dough at the beginning of bulk fermentation, and the following one is the dough at the end of bulk fermentation. Comparing these, just like we did with the leaven, super important. It tells us how much volume that dough's increased by. And I can tell you from experience, having used this bowl countless times, That's increased by about 75%, pretty much what we want. Then the dough gets shaped and popped into the basket. Now remember what our member said? I only left it out for 15 minutes because the dough was super active. So it only ambient proofed for 15 minutes and then went into cold retard. We can see that here. There's the dough post shape. The next one is the dough after that short 15-minute ambient proof. And that is the dough after it comes out of the fridge the next morning. And we can see right from the beginning of those pictures, the dough seems to be super active. It seems to fill that basket. Now the last picture is the dough after it's been scored. We're going to zoom in because this is super important and you should really get into the habit of looking at your dough after scoring. We want to see a fantastic network of bubbles here. Why? Because when we slide the dough into the oven, the heat hits the outside and it uses that network of bubbles as a roadmap to dive through to the center of the dough, and then all of the cells expand and we get that beautiful oven spring. But I can tell you that these bubbles aren't great. They seem a bit random, they're still a bit small. I would say that that dough is still a little underproofed. So from all of that information, have you figured out what has gone wrong with that bake? What has caused that crumb to be blown apart by all of those holes? Well, it's right back at the top, right at the beginning, and it's our dough weight that's the issue. So the holes in the crumb were actually caused by the dough underproving, and that's because we were tricked into cutting the ambient proof short because the dough filled the basket. Now this formula was designed to fit a basket like this that holds 1,000 grams. There's sufficient room here to let that dough prove properly. It's not designed to fit a basket like this that only holds 800 grams of dough. There is not enough room in this basket for the dough to prove properly. And just a warning, the opposite is also true if your dough's too small for the basket. Then as a beginner, you run the risk of leaving the dough to prove until it reaches the top, and that often results in overproving. Now dialing in your dough weight so that it fits your basket, or just choosing a recipe that already fits, is super helpful for beginners to be able to master the proving. All you need to do is leave your dough to expand till it fills the basket, until it comes up to the top. And you're 95% of the way there. That gives you the confidence while you fine-tune your senses and master the poke test. Now, once you get more experience, dough weights matter less and less, but in the beginning, they're a real shortcut to success. I've seen this problem so many times with beginners in Sourdough Unchained. I actually created a process, one for sizing the basket and the other for adjusting any recipe to fit it. That helps the beginners overcome these proving challenges. So my advice to you is to know what size dough your basket is designed for, then choose a recipe that actually fits it. And if you want to experiment with adjusting dough sizes, you can try my beginner's calculator, which I'll leave linked below. That's it for this week. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.